For all of you druid lovers, here is my guide on making a budget wind druid. The wind druid uses hurricane and tornado as its main skills, and it is the most popular druid build in the game for MFing. So why should you play the wind druid? Well, I'll give you 3 reasons. The first reason is that the wind druid has 2 elements with good damage. You have tornadoes doing physical damage and hurricane doing cold damage. So if you ever get frustrated about immunes whenever you play the game and you use single element builds like the Javazon, you pretty much always have an answer with the wind druid. If a monster is cold immune, you can use tornado to kill it, and if it's physical immune, then you can use hurricane to kill it. The second reason is that hurricane is awesome. You get AoE, CC, and damage all in one skill. And you don't even have to keep spamming it like you would with other skills. You just toggle it on and let it do its thing, which is kind of cool. And the third reason is that the Wind Druid has good survivability because it has Summon Grizzly, Oak Sage to boost health, and also Cyclone Armor, which negates elemental damage. It does have some drawbacks though. The Wind Druid, for example, doesn't have any built-in mobility skills like the Assassin's Burst of Speed, nor does it have something like the Paladin's Charge skill or Vigor Aura, and it doesn't have teleport built into it, so you're going to need to rely on something like a teleport staff on Switch, or Enigma, or a Harmony Bow if you want to get yourself from place to place more quickly. Also, tornadoes are a little difficult to aim, so even though you can do a lot of damage, you might find it hard to hit some of the monsters that you come up against. Despite the weaknesses that I listed though, the Wind Druid is pretty strong. It's tanky because of the Bear and the Oak Sage and the Cyclone Armor, and it has good damage from 2 elements, so it can farm several areas in the game pretty well, even if it has crappy gear. And if you're playing multiplayer, whoever's in your party is going to love you because they get more health from Oak Sage, and they also get a bear that can tank for them while they do damage. Okay, now that we got the intro for the character out of the way, let's talk about the stat points and skill points. So the assumption I'm going to make here for this character is that you've gotten all of the waypoints, you've done all of the skill quests, and you haven't actually used any of the stat and skill points, possibly because you just used a respec, but you don't really know how to build your Windy Druid and what gear you need. Maybe, for example, you got rushed through the game and you didn't actually pick up anything along the way, and you've done a little bit of leveling and public chaos runs or something. But again, you're just trying to start building up a character for MFing. So I have here my demo character. He's level 75, and I haven't actually put any stat or skill points. So where we're going to start off by putting points into strength until we reach 60 points. Some of the gear that you're going to have early on when you shop it from vendors, particularly the gloves and the belt, are going to have a strength requirement of 60. That's probably going to be the highest strength requirement that you're going to have from the equipment that you shop. Now, later on, you're going to want to have more points into strength when you start getting items with a higher strength requirement, like the Monarch Shield, which has a 156 strength requirement, and you need the Monarch so that you can make Spirit into that. But right now, while we're using starting gear, we can just leave it at 60 for now. Especially because you don't actually know what other equipment you're going to be getting. Sometimes you get some really cool rare rings that have plus strength, an amulet that might have druid skills and plus strength. You might find a druid pelt that has plus strength, and you might not need to put 100 more points into strength because you might actually overshoot how much you need to wield the Spirit Monarch. So starting off 60 is fine. If you want, you can leave 100 points left over so that you can adjust your strength as necessary to wear your gear. And then when you get your Spirit Monarch, then you can dump the rest into Vitality. But for this video, just to make things a little bit easier, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put the rest of the points into Vitality here. Now, we don't really need Dexterity because your tornadoes, they do physical damage, but they don't rely on attack rating, and you're not going to be using your chance to block with this build. Meanwhile, you have energy, and you might think, oh, well, maybe you should have some points to energy because you're going to be spamming a lot of tornadoes, and you're going to use Hurricane and cast other things. But for the most part, your mana should be coming from mana potions, and you should have items that boost your mana pool. Things like Spirit Sword, and for your shield, Spirit Monarch. That should give you all the mana you need and not have to worry about putting any points into energy. You want to focus on having your stat points, boosting your character's life as much as possible so you can survive when you go into combat. Now, for skill points, now here's where things get really interesting. Obviously, you're going to want to have Tornado and Hurricane, points into those because these are your core skills, and you're going to want to max them out. Yeah, Hurricane, like I mentioned, does cold damage, and Tornado does physical damage, and you're going to cast the Hurricane. You can't actually cast Hurricane in town, but you cast it when you're outside of town, and it follows you. It lasts 12 seconds when you have 1 point into Cyclone Armor, and there's a cooldown of 6 seconds from when you can from when you first cast it to when you can refresh its duration or have Hurricane up again. So yeah, I'm going to talk more about that in a second. You're going to have also 1 point into Poison Creeper and Carrion Vine. I would say that it doesn't hurt to have a point of Carrion Vine because this is a nice sustain tool. If you summon it in places like the pits, as you kill packs, you don't have to worry about chugging down healing potions as much. You can just use the Carrion Vine to refill your health as you go and farm monsters. You have Solar Creeper too. Some people might be tempted to put a point into Solar Creeper to refill mana. I don't like Solar Creeper personally. I don't think it regenerates enough mana for it to be worthwhile, but Carrion Vine's really nice. You actually get a lot of sustain out of Carrion Vine, so I would advise putting 1 point into Carrion Vine at least. You're also going to want to put 1 point into Oak Sage and 1 point into Grizzly Bear as well as prerequisites, but we're going to revisit this a little later. You're going to actually put more points into Oak Sage for this build. Now you have 36 points remaining. Hurricane and Tornado synergize with Twister, so you're going to want to keep putting points into this as a synergy for more damage. And then most builds are going to tell you to, or most guides are going to tell you to max out Cyclone Armor, right? Because it's the last remaining synergy for Tornado and Hurricane. But what I would recommend early on is actually to only put 5 points into Cyclone Armor. This is just so you can boost the duration of the Hurricane long enough that you can comfortably recast it between fights, and that it lasts long enough that you can kill a pack before it wears off. And the rest of the points, I would recommend putting them into Oak Sage, actually. Now, this might seem a little weird. The Oak Sage AI is pretty stupid, to put it bluntly. Like, it's gonna regularly run into monsters instead of staying out of fights. So you're gonna need to be very mindful of where the Oak Sage is. You're gonna need to try to recast it away from combat as much as possible. But this is going to keep you alive, your Merc alive, and your Bear alive, because it boosts the life for everybody. Like, look at that, plus 95%, almost double health on yourself, your Bear, and your Merc. When you start to farm some of the areas in Hell that I'm going to show, like pits, you'll see how useful it is actually having the extra health. So that's for stat and skill points. In a second, I'm going to show demo how the build plays out. Okay, so I'm just going to hotkey some of my skills here. The way the build works, you're going to want to open up by pre-buffing yourself with Cyclone Armor, and you're going to want to summon your Oak Sage, your Bear, and your Carrion Vine. You don't really need your Carrion Vine if you're going to be doing quick runs of, say, Eldritch or Pindle that last like 10-15 seconds, but if you're going to be doing an area that takes longer with like a lot of monster packs like pits, then yeah, you should have Carrion Vine active as well. You also want to cast Hurricane, but you can't cast it in town. You have to go outside of town to cast it. So those are all of the skills that you need to cast going into combat. And I'm actually going to show you how this build works in just a second. Now, to get gear, you need gold so that you can actually shop your really basic starting equipment from the vendors. So the easiest way that you can get gold is by doing Eldritch runs and selling the gear that he drops. You could do this in Hell, but just to make things a little bit easier for myself and to speed things up, I'm going to do it in Nightmare. So you can see here, you get Cyclone Armor, and you get Oak Sage, you get Bear, you get Carrion Vine, and then I'm going to use Hurricane here, and then I'm going to walk into the pack. Oh, I also just realized that I have a throw set. Okay, there you go. So, you see he dropped a Trident, a Barbaker Axe. I'm going to pick those up. No other items dropped. And then we're going to do this a couple times until Eldritch drops something useful. I can sell this, and then I can sell this. Again, you don't really need that much gold. You only need to farm about 100,000 gold, I'd say, would be comfortable. Yeah, you only need about 100,000 gold to buy all the items that you really need comfortably. So that's probably like maybe 10 or like 5 to 10 Eldritch runs. You shouldn't really need that many. 100,000 will get you the boots, the gloves, the belt, and possibly your weapon. I'm going to show that later, but you can get +3. You can get +3 druid skill, or sorry, +3 elemental skills for druids on a club as one of the modifiers on it. So when you're doing shopping for boots and other gear later, you can keep an eye out for that. Okay, so you kind of get the idea. That's how the playstyle works. And also, this is kind of how you would farm gold early on. Now, if I didn't have enough gold, or I don't have that much gold here, but just to make things a little bit easier, just speed things up for this video, I made sure to leave 1 million gold in stash, just so that we can get into the shopping part a little bit more quickly. So let's get over to the vendor. So where are we going to shop for items? Normally I would recommend using Anya, but Anya doesn't sell clubs, which, like I mentioned before, can spawn with plus to druid skills, or sorry, plus to elemental skills. I guess it could also spawn with, it might actually spawn with plus to druid skills too, but elemental skills is the one that is interesting because it can go to +3, something like this. And to be honest, it's not super common to come by, so you don't need to put too much emphasis on trying to find it, but if you come across it while you're looking for the other items, you might as well buy it, right? So instead of doing Anya, or instead of shopping at Anya, what I would recommend doing, I would recommend going over to Stony Field, going to Tristram and getting the Wurt's Leg and a Tome of Town portal. You get those two things, and you can open the cow portal next to Geed. And what you can do here, you trade, you look for a set of boots. Here's what I'm looking for here, right? Well, I mean, here these ones are 20 faster run walk, but ideally you want a set of boots with 40 faster run walk. So I'm going to keep shopping until I find those. But I did get a nice set of gloves here with 28 lightning res, so I'll probably take those. Again, what you're looking for here, boot, belts, gloves, and a weapon. Yeah, you can see that he's not selling any clubs right now. I'm going to refresh it. Yeah, clubs can be a little bit difficult to come by, so again, you don't need to put too much emphasis on it, especially because later on you're going to switch out your club for a spirit sword anyway. But maybe if you don't have ladder runewords enabled because you're playing the original Diablo 2 and you're not using pluggy or something, you might want a club. But for the most part, it's just nice to pick up if it's convenient, but otherwise, yeah, you can focus on... Here we go. Here's another set of gloves that you could use. These ones have MF rather than resistances. Me personally, I prefer gloves with resistance early on to keep me alive. I don't put as much emphasis on MFing until I have decent gear. And yeah, so we're looking for 40 faster run walk boots ideally, because it'll help. Well, I mean, I think it's fairly obvious. It's nice to actually have your character move quickly, especially because this character doesn't have any mobility tools, so you can't really cheap out on the 40 faster run walk boots. There you go, nice. So it doesn't really take that long to find these boots. What might take a while is if you want to get a set of boots that have 40 faster run walk with a second modifier. For example, like 40 faster run walk with... Basically, 40 faster run walk or 30 faster run walk with, like, let's say, like 30 light res or 30 cold res or something like that. If you get boots with faster run walk and resistances, it could take a little bit longer because it needs to spawn with a prefix and a suffix, and the odds of finding that are quite a bit lower. But honestly, usually just 40 faster run walk boots by themselves are fine from the belts department. So we have the gloves, we have the belt. What's next? We need a belt.
Good day.
So we have the boots, we have the gloves, now we just need a belt. And the belt, here's an interesting one. This is what I'm talking about. Items like these will boost your strength and make it easier to wear a Spirit Monarch later on. But again, the belt that I would recommend getting would actually be one that has basically Plated Belt of the Whale. Plated Belt of the Whale is nice. Plated Belt of the Whale is a belt that has 4 rows of potion slots, and it also has a lot of life. And interestingly enough, I don't have any... I still haven't found a good belt with plus life. Usually it is pretty common and I can come across it, but you know what, this will do for now. We could pretend that this is a belt with plus 80 to life if we really wanted to, but again, it doesn't really matter too much. You kind of get the idea. So, yeah, at this point, also I didn't find any clubs that showed up at Geed while I was doing these, or shopping for the gloves, the belt, or the boots, so whatever, it's not a big deal. The other thing that you can shop from Geed are javelins, and you're gonna need javelins, or you're gonna need a javelin for your mercenary, but not just any javelin. You're actually looking for throwing spears. In particular, you're looking for this. You're looking for throwing spear of amplified damage. Now, why throwing spear of amplified damage, right? Like, well, first of all, this is the easiest merc weapon to come by early on that will actually help you out, I guess. Some people will just use random spears that they find up off the ground, but again, here's something that's actually going to be, or that can actually be useful to your character, because if you put this on your merc, then he has a chance to cast the Necro Curse Amplify Damage, which reduces enemy resistances by, or physical resistance by 100%. What that means is you increase the damage of your tornado by a lot. Yeah, so you can actually use it to increase the damage of your tornado, so that's why having this is pretty useful. Also, make sure that it's a throwing spear and not glaives. Geed sells a couple types of javelins. It's not just throwing spears, but throwing spears attack more quickly than other available options that your mercenary can use. So, yeah, make sure it's a throwing spear of amplify damage. Okay, so at this point we have boots, belt, gloves, and, well, we didn't find a weapon, but I'll talk more about that a little later, I guess. So, um, since we're talking about the throwing spear of amplified damage, obviously we need a mercenary from Act 2. Uh, you're going to want to get this mercenary from Act 2 on normal difficulty, okay? So there's a lot of players who will go and use Might for the Wind Druid, or Holy Freeze, generally Might, and later on you're gonna switch to a Might Mercenary. You can get a Might Mercenary from Nightmare Act 2, but early on, while you don't have a good weapon to go along with Might, you're gonna want to get a Blessed Aim Mercenary instead, because what's most important, and here we go, we have Durga now. What's most important is that your merc can actually hit as quickly as possible and as many times as possible, because even though you can't see his attack rating on screen, he does have a chance to hit when he attacks monsters, obviously. So Blessed Aim will increase his chance to hit, and thus increase the amount of time that Amplify damage will be active for your tornadoes. So, yeah, there you go. That's the Mercenary that you're going to be getting. Also, make sure that you get it from normal and not Hell difficulty. Even though you can get a Mercenary from Hell with the same aura, their stats are just a little bit worse. So yeah, just make sure you get it from normal. And I think they're cheaper in normal too. So, yeah, something I wanted to point out, a lot of players like to go Insight on their Mercenary, even on a crappy polearm. Now, personally, I prefer Throwing Spear of Amplified Damage. I like the damage that I get on Tornado when Amplified Damage is active, but having Insight does help you not have to worry about chugging down mana potions, so it's really nice. Later on, if you can find an elite base like a Cryptic Axe that you can put your Insight into, then yeah, absolutely switch out your Throwing Spear of Amplified Damage for an elite base Insight. But if you're just gonna stick it in like a Garbage Halberd or something, then you may want to consider just keeping the Amplified Damage Spear, so that you can keep boosting your tornado damage when the curse is active. Another thing to keep an eye out for, maybe, would be a Lemrune and a Korune, so that you can make a Lawbringer. You can get an Act 5 Mercenary with a Lawbringer Lawbringer provides a chance to cast Decrepify on striking. I think it's 20% chance, so it's much higher than the 5% chance from this Throwing Spear. It also has Sanctuary Aura, so Lawbringer is useful for if you're going to farm some undead heavy area, like, let's say, Ancient Tunnels, or if you're going to be doing, like, Throne Room, and there's going to be those undead Stygian dolls. Sanctuary Aura helps a lot with that. So, yeah, just some options for you, some upgrade ideas for you to consider for your character. Obviously, in the really end game, you're gonna want Reaper's Toll for the Windy Druid, but until you get to that point, Lawbringer is the closest thing that you can get to like a poor man's Reaper's Toll, and throwing Spear of Amplified Damage is like a poor man's Reaper's Toll, so... yeah, that's what I can say about your Merc weapon, and later you can find like an armor and a helm form, but this is the main thing that you want to shop from our boy Geed. Alright, so yeah, we have boots, belt, gloves, we have the spear. Next thing would be the shield and the armor. So, for your shield, you're gonna want to get a 3-socket shield from Farah, a 3-socket large shield, normal Farah to be precise, because she can't sell 3-socket shields in Nightmare and Hell. It's only normal. So you're gonna talk to her and do it a few times. Oh, kite shield. Oh, okay, this also works. Yeah, and I have enough strength requirement to use it, so yeah, this is perfectly fine. Yeah, sometimes it might take you a little bit to find the large shield, but if you don't find it right away, then keep at it until you find either a 3-socket kite shield like I did here, or a 3-socket large shield. So, yep. And why do we need that 3-socket large shield? Well, kite shield in this case. Well, it's quite simple. We're gonna be making Ancient's Pledge into it. Ancient's Pledge is a rune word, Ral, Ort, and Tal. I'm gonna show you what that does in a second, and where you can get Ral, Ort, and Tal, you need to do Act 5, Quest 2. If you do Act 5, Quest 2, you gotta free some barbarians in the Frigid Highlands. You can do this in normal, then Nightmare, then Hell difficulty. So you can do it in all 3 difficulties, but you only really need to do it for 1, so you can build your Ancient's Pledge. You just talk to Qual Kek, and you get Ral, Ort, and Tal. So Ral, Ort, Tal, and as you can see, it gives an insane amount of resistances. You have Light, Fire, Poison Res 48 and Cold Res 43, and you even get damage taken goes to mana, which doesn't mean that when you get hit you lose mana. What that means is if you take damage, then you regain mana, so that's also a really cool benefit. So now our resistances are much higher. We still aren't able to block because our dexterity is so low, but having these resistances will definitely help you in Hell. Because, yeah, you do have Cyclone Armor, but even though you have Cyclone Armor, if it runs out and you're in the middle of a fight, you don't want it to be the case where you'll just instantly die because your Cyclone Armor wore off, right? And you weren't expecting it. So there you go. That's for your shield. For your armor, I mean, most of you might already be familiar with this, but you're going to want Stealth. Stealth runeword is Tal and Eth, very low-level runewords, and you're going to need a 2-socket base armor for it. It doesn't really matter which one, like you just need to shop it from Charcy and Act 1 normal. I got lucky that I managed to get it on the first roll, or like the first window of armors, but yeah, if I didn't find it, then obviously you can go into like Cold Plains or something, come back and just keep refreshing the window until you find a 2-socket armor. It really shouldn't take you all that long to find one at all. And once you have the 2-socket armor, you put Tal and Eth into it, and this is for the faster cast rate, faster hit recovery, the poison resist, and my personal favorite, of course, is the faster run walk, 25%. So with the 25% faster run walk from the armor and from the 40% from the boots, your character can run quickly enough that even though you don't have any mobility tools like the sorceress's teleport, it doesn't feel miserable trying to get from place to place. So, yeah, while we're at Charcy, actually, one other thing I wanted to mention. So, the runes Tal and Eth, you can get a Tal rune from doing Ancient's Pledge. Eth rune you can't. You can get Eth rune from running Countess. Normal Countess, yeah, I'm not going to do a Countess run right now, but normal Countess is prone to dropping plenty of Tal runes and plenty of Eth runes. So you can, if you're trying to make a stealth rune word, then you can get Tal and Eth from there. And again, Eth is a fairly common rune, so maybe you'll find people who are willing to throw it away and you can just take it from them if they don't want it. So that's for stealth. Later on, one of the things you're going to want to look out for is a loom rune. If you can get a loom rune, you can make smoke. Well, yeah, smoke rune word is Nef and Loom. With those two, or with that runeword, you get 50 to all res. But that's not something you can get in normal difficulty so easily, unlike with stealth. Stealth is like really, really basic equipment, but the next upgrade, of course, here would be smoke. But that's or that's a little bit later. So, yeah, we've covered shield and armor here. So next thing you're going to want to look for is a 2-socket helmet. Or at least normally I would say that, yeah, you need the 2-socket helmet to make lore into, right? So that's one option, but I'm also going to cover another one in a sec. And I don't think Charcy has not been paying out here. Okay, well, whatever. I took the liberty of keeping a cap in my stash just in case. Ort Rune and Soul Rune. Again, you can find Ort Rune from Ancient's Pledge quest, but you can't find the Soul Rune you can't find the Soul Rune as easily. But still, you can run normal cows. Like, if you're looking for Ort and Soul to make lore, you can go normal cows. Just do, like, a couple runs, and maybe you'll find Ort and Soul. You can even do normal cow runs on players 7 or players 8, because your Hurricane does enough damage that you'll still manage to one-shot them, probably. So, Ort and Soul, as you can see, you can use lore for your Druid, right? As with most of the other caster-based builds. However, there is actually a better alternative that I want to talk about, potentially. Now, the Druid-specific item is known as a Druid pelt, like this. Yeah, as you can see here. Druid-only helms, they look like wolf heads, I guess. So these pelts, you'll find a lot of them as you play through the game naturally, but if for some reason you don't have one on hand or you don't find a good one, when you do the Anya quest, most people will do the Anya quest so that they get the Scrolls of Resistance from Mala. But one of the other quest rewards is that when you talk to Anya, you can get one of the Druid-specific, or, well, class-specific items for your character. Now, in this case, for the Druid, it's a helmet. And, again, you can do this for normal, nightmare, and hell. Note that the ones that you get in hell, or the ones that you get in nightmare are going to be better than the ones you get in normal, and the ones you get in hell are going to be better than the ones you get from nightmare. So, I'm not surprised the normal one was kind of garbage. So let's take a look at this one. Here you go. Here's a kind of a cool pelt. It doesn't have any super useful modifiers, but yeah, you can see you can get like +2 to summon Grizzly. Imagine if that was like +2 to Tornado instead, and then instead of +1 Volcano, it was +1 Hurricane, or something like that, right? So you can actually get some pretty decent pelts from the Anya quest, or after rescuing Anya, and when she gives you this as a quest reward. Okay, so unfortunately, I kind of got garbage from these quest rewards, but to kind of give you an idea of something that might be worth using, one of the previous quest rewards that I got, that I saved to show you in this video, you can get something like this. This is my Hell Anya quest reward. This pelt has +2 to Druid skills, and it's got 2 open sockets, so I could have put like 2 P Topazes into here, or I could have put like 2 Rals, or 2 Orts, or something like that, right? So this is kind of cool. This is a nice alternative to lore, which, again, lore is the tried and true old reliable, but yeah, usually you can find Druid pelts pretty nicely. So, yeah. One other thing I wanted to point out, another option if you find white pelts along the way, or just like pelts that are non-magic, you can use the Imbue quest on them if you're really desperate for an early game pelt. But even though this is an option, I wouldn't advise it, just because you can actually save those Imbues for when you find level 85, you find pelts from level 85 areas, and then you can use the Imbue quest on them when you're higher level. I'm not going to go over how imbuing works in this video. It's complicated enough that even I don't fully understand it, but Um, from my understanding, if you're like level 80 or like level 85 or something, and you imbue white pelts from level 85 areas, you can get some really GG pelts. Ones that have like +2 to druid skills with +3 NATO, +3 hurricane, that kind of stuff. So definitely worth considering for your endgame character as you get more and more equipment and level your character more and more. Next up is going to be the rings for this character. Now, normally you can get a ring from just playing through the game, or you can gamble it. An easy way to get rings aside from that would be to grab the quest rewards from doing the Cane quest, and also from doing the Gidbin quest. So for the Cane quest, I mean, this one's pretty self-explanatory. Most people do the Cane quest anyway because they want to get Worst Leg from Tristram to make cows, or they want Cane to ID their items. But of course you can also get rings as a reward from Akara, and you can do this for all 3 difficulties, of course. Yeah, so in normal you only get a crappy magic ring, but sometimes that can spawn with 10 FCR. In Nightmare and Hell you'll get a rare ring from Akara. And you can take a look here. And sometimes these rings can be pretty decent. Obviously the main modifier you want on these rings would be 10 FCR, but I mean, if it comes with like plus to resistances, if it comes with plus mana or plus life, then it's nice to use those as a temporary ring until you find something better. So here we have another ring, nothing too crazy, but it gives mana and light res, which are pretty nice. So aside from the Cane quest, like I mentioned before, you can also do the Gidbin quest. I'm not going to cover how to do the Gidbin quest, just know that you need to go to Flayer Jungle, and then you need to go and find the Gidbin. You can probably look that up yourself, but at the end of it, you're supposed to get the Gidbin dagger, and you're supposed to turn it into Ormus. And yeah, there you go. Once you turn in the Gidbin, and you talk to Ormus, he'll give you a rare ring free of charge. And you can do this for normal, Nightmare, and Hell, same as with the Cane quest. So I'm just gonna go talk to Ormus here.
This
magic ring does me no good. Same story. And keep in mind that the rings that you get in Nightmare are going to be better than the rings that you get from the normal quest reward, and the ring that you get from the Hell reward is going to be better than the one you get from Nightmare. So, and yeah, there you go. See, now we have like, oh, here we go. Here's a solid one. I've definitely gotten better rings than this, but this kind of showcases what I mean. This one has 10 FCR, it has a bit of poison res, and it has a bit of MF. Now the rolls could have been higher, of course, but I'm definitely not complaining as a rare ring. And I would probably sub out, let's say this one for it. And you can see we get a pretty decent chunk of mana from this ring, and a little bit of res. And we also get a bit of FCR, MF, and poison res from this ring, and even a wee bit of strength. So I definitely wouldn't skip out on doing these quests. You can actually get some really good rare rings from doing the Ormus quest. Like, I remember seeing one player, he got like a 10 FCR with 25 MF ring. That's probably one of my favorites that I've seen as the quest reward from doing the Gidbin. So yeah, there's 6 rings right there from doing just those 2 quests alone on all 3 difficulties. And then if these rings are not that great, then of course just keep an eye out for ones that you find while farming. So as for your amulet, similar to rings, you can find it as you play through the game and kill monsters. or you can just gamble it. If you want to get a good amulet, one of the things that you can do, um, there's a cube recipe where you need one of every perfect gem, except for the perfect skull, and then you need a magic amulet, and then you cube it, and you can get a prismatic amulet with potentially another modifier, but you get basically an amulet that has plus to all resistances with a variable roll. I think it's like, I don't remember the exact values right off the top of my head. I think it's like 10 to 20 or something, but yeah, like I could wear something like this if I wanted. Maybe you don't have the P-gems to make this, that's fine. Again, if it's not available, then just keep an eye out for a good amulet or just try to gamble one. This is probably going to be a temp anyway until you get something better, like +3 to elemental druid skills amulet, or like, you know, way later on like a Mara's or like a crafted amulet or something. So if you're looking for making P-gems, one of the things you could do is run a couple of Hell Forges. That gives you some gems, and you can just collect gems as you play through the game. And yeah, you can make prismatic amulets like that, but that's just if you're really desperate to get a decent amulet, or if you have P-gems just lying around, there's just one available option for you. So that's for rings and amulets, and I think the last thing, the last gear section that I didn't talk about yet is what you're going to have on Switch. Now, I like to have a teleport staff handy. Teleport staff is pretty useful because you can, once you have all of your summons out, then and your merc as well, you want to reposition yourself in front of whatever monsters you're going to be fighting. So you can just teleport in so you're not just wandering off. And then also it helps you aim your tornadoes a little bit better too. So having a teleport staff is handy. But where are you going to shop for or how do you shop for a teleport staff? Well, I'm going to show you a cool trick that you can use to shop for teleport staves more easily. I like to shop teleports. Well, you're going to be looking to shop it from Drognin in Act 2 because he sells staves. But on top of that, the staves. One sec. Let me keep re-rolling the map because I need to actually get a good map for this to show you what I mean. Okay, one more attempt. Sometimes there's, like, this might take a bit, but what's supposed to happen is that some of the Act 2 map layouts look oh, okay, there we go. This is what I'm looking for. So sometimes the map layout, the exit will be next to Grease, but if you re-roll the map enough times, you'll get one that looks like this, where you can kind of walk out to Rocky Waste, then come back, and then talk to Drognin. And you need that because, yeah, you can quickly refresh his shop that way. Like, you look, you see, oh, nothing here. Gonna run out, come back in, and then same story. And then do this over and over until a teleport staff shows up. And some people will tell you to just do it in normal difficulty, which is fine, but if you look for higher level staves in Nightmare and Hell, they're actually going to have more charges. So the one that I have here, this is one that I would have shopped from Act 3, Ormus, in normal. But sometimes you can find a teleport staff that has, like, let's say 45 or 48 charges if you do this enough times. So, yeah. You also find other staves with, like, lower res charges, but generally, yeah, I think teleport staff is probably your... Oh, that was an accident, I didn't mean to buy it. Teleport staff is probably your best option. Maybe if you can get, like, a co-rune, you can consider making a harmony. But, yeah. So that's going to be for your Switch teleport staff if you can find one that's somewhat affordable is a solid choice, and then you can use that to teleport into combat and reposition your merc and your bear, and also yourself, so that you can cast Hurricane properly. Yeah, I'm going to talk about where to farm in a second, but I think the last thing I wanted to cover before I wrap it up for gear, I talked about how to get boots, gloves, belt, armor, helm, your merc weapon, your own weapon, and your shield, along with the rings and the amulet, right? Like basically the whole package. And then on Switch, teleport staff. Now, when it comes to your shield, I've mentioned this briefly earlier. You're going to be looking for you're going to start off with Ancient's Pledge, but you're going to want to switch over to Spirit Monarch ASAP. You can only find Monarchs in Hell difficulty. So, if you're looking for a Monarch, you're going to need to farm Hell. When I show you later a Pits run, that's one of the locations which can drop a Monarch. Same with if you run something like Eldritch or even Pindle, but I'll talk about that a little later. And for your weapon, you also want to make a spirit in a sword of some kind, or 4-socket sword. Now, here's the thing. The easiest way to make a spirit sword is to run normal cows. The things that you're going to have the hardest time looking for are the Thule, the Am, and the Broadsword, like the base. Talon Ort you can get from doing the Ancient's Pledge quest, but Thule and Am you actually have to farm cows for it. Maybe do... I don't think it should take that long. It'll maybe take like 10 runs, maybe, to get a Thule and an Am. The sword is kind of interesting, though, because you actually can't find a broadsword that spawns with 4 open sockets when it drops, or when a cow dies and drops a broadsword. It's never going to spawn 4 sockets. So what you need to do is, if you find a plain broadsword or a plain crystal sword from normal cows, okay, this is very important. Because some people are going to find like a crystal sword in Nightmare or Hell, and they're going to use a Larza quest on it and wonder why they got 6 sockets. You need a broadsword or a crystal sword from normal cows, and then you would talk to Larzuk, and then you would get it socketed. Now, I don't have a plain white broadsword to demo, but kind of get the idea here. You would talk to Larzuk, and then whatever, let's just pretend this is a broadsword. You could just go, you could pop the socket, or you could use the socket quest on this, and then the broadsword gets max sockets, or it'll get 4 sockets, broadsword and crystal swords. So that's how you would get, and then of course you'd put the runes Tal, Thule, Ort, and Am in that order into the sword. Now, if for some reason you're out of socket quests, or you're really stingy and you don't want to use a socket quest, that's okay. You can also run Nightmare Cows instead. Yeah, you can actually go and try to run Nightmare Cows, where the monsters will also still drop Tals, Thules, Orts, and Ams, as well as broadswords and crystal swords occasionally. But it might take a bit longer to find a sword that, or like a broadsword or a crystal sword that also has 4 sockets when you're farming Nightmare Cows. That would be one of the places you can look. Nightmare Cows is also nice for if you're trying to look for intermediate upgrades for your gear. Like if you're looking for better rings, if you're looking for a better amulet, if you're looking for a pelt. So I don't actually think Nightmare Cows is a horrible place to start off at, because you can kill a lot of monsters quickly, get some small gear upgrades, and then once you feel like your character can survive comfortably in Hell, then you can start farming Hell and focusing on killing monsters there, and well, killing them quickly in Hell. So yeah, that's kind of where you would get your Spirit Sword. So normal cows if you are willing to use a socket quest, but if you're not, then nightmare cows. Okay, so I think the last part of my video, I'm going to talk about 4 good places that you can farm that I'm going to demonstrate for you. These are going to be, as I was just talking about, cows in Nightmare, Eldritch, Pindle, and Hell Pits. Ancient Tunnels is also alright, but if you're playing multiplayer, it can be kind of annoying trying to find it when you don't have built-in teleport or charge or burst of speed or anything like that. Also, the monsters in Ancient Tunnels are kind of dangerous with things like the amount of elemental damage they have, and they also can poison you, which your Cyclone Armor can't prevent. And some of the monsters there will spawn with all kinds of nasty modifiers like Cursed or Enchanted, which could be a problem. So, yeah, Eldritch and Pindle. Let's start off with that. So in Hell mode, earlier I did runs of Eldritch on Nightmare, so you probably would already know what it looks like. I made a mistake here. I should have actually summoned my Oak Sage and my Bear ahead of time, but okay, hold on a second. My hotkeys are a little off. Okay, there we go. So, oh, and they're mighty. Okay, let me skip this run for now. Just make things a bit easier for myself. Okay, so doing this Eldritch run, you can see I get to summon my Vine, my Oak Sage, and my Bear. I'm gonna pop Hurricane out of habit here, but the monsters in Hell mode or the Eldritch's pack in Hell mode is immune to cold damage, so you're gonna be spamming tornadoes to kill them. So yeah, this is, you can see that you can kill them pretty quickly just by spamming nados, and you can actually get some pretty decent, well, I mean, obviously these items aren't very useful, but occasionally you can get a good unique from Eldritch, so this is one place you can farm if you're trying to get accustomed to the build. You just want to practice your skill rotation. Here, I'm going to show kind of what I meant by positioning. I put my Merc in front with my Bear, right? And then if he pops amp damage, I'm a little unlucky here that he hasn't popped it, but if he did pop amp damage, then I could kill these monsters in like 2 or 3 tornadoes. So, yeah, that's how the build performs in Hell Eldritch. Now I'm going to show you what happens for Pindle. Here we go. And you can kind of see what I mean, like keeping my... Oh, and I gotta have Hurricane this time because Eldritch, or these guys aren't immune to cold like Eldritch was. Okay, so you see the Spirit died there. You get, like, I like to make sure that the Oak Sage is actually outside of combat. Like, what I was supposed to do there, and I'm going to show you this in the next run of Pindle because this one is kind of sloppy. I'm supposed to have Oak Sage active going into that. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to have my summons here. I'm going to have Cyclone Armor. I have the Vine, right? Then I go here. I actually forgot to Hurricane, but yeah, so Oak Sage is a little too close to the fight. I'm supposed to send it a little more outward. It will give me the health boost so that my Merc and I can survive while still staying quite outside of combat. And it looks like we got a unique Chris right here. This is our first unique item for this, possibly even only unique item for this demo, and we can kind of see what we got out of it. But yeah, Hell Eldritch. You could actually, I guess, do Hell Shank if you really wanted to, but Hell Eldritch and Hell Pindle are 2 places that you can farm pretty easily with this character. Even if for some reason Pindle spawn with some pretty nasty modifiers, you know, we have Hurricane, we have Tornado, we have a Bear to tank, and we have a Merc with Oak Sage to tank too, and amp damage, so you can do Pindle pretty easily even early on, which is nice. Now, I'm going to show you quickly what a cow run of Nightmare would look like. Again, this is one of the places you can farm like really early game, like when you've just made this build and you just want like a few gear upgrades, or maybe you want like a few small charms, or you want I don't know, you just want to get like a few runes for some runewords. Like I mentioned earlier, smoke would be pretty nice to get. Yeah, you definitely run Nightmare Cows for that. And any day now it would show up. Oh, yeah, speaking of which, so up until now, the runs I've done in Eldritch and Pindle, my Hurricane lasts the full duration of the fight. But when you're going to be farming areas where there's going to be multiple packs, you're going to need to recast Hurricane. I was talking about this earlier when we were going over my skill point allocation. Even if I had dumped all of my points into Cyclone Armor, so that I could extend the duration of my Hurricane, you still need to recast Hurricane every now and then. So, yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. Okay, there we go. And then you can put the words like here, make Cow Portal, and then you get Oak Sage, Bear. The Cyclone Armor is already up, and then we can get the Carrion Vine. Also, a little interesting detail about the Oak Sage. It's immune to physical damage in Nightmare, so you don't need to worry about it dying if you're gonna run Nightmare Cows. Yep. So you see, this is kind of what the run would look like. You just pop Hurricane, and then you just run into a pack of cows. They flinch because they're taking. Well, I mean, Hurricane slows them down innately with its cold damage, but also it does enough damage to knock them into hit recovery. So it's fairly safe to run Nightmare Cows early on. And you can kind of see some of the things they drop, right? Like Mage Play. Oh, look, solid. 2 socket, 250, and a Tal Rune too. Awesome. 253 defense, 2 open socket Mage Blade, and there you go. Bam, there's our... it also has 55 strength requirements, so I can already wear it. So bam, yeah, that's our base for smoke. If we wanted to get, like, if we could find enough in a lump, we could easily make smoke with that and replace stealth right away. Then we're even more safe in health. Then what else have we found, right? Like, we found the Superior Scythe, which, yeah, you can find 4-socket bases to make Insight with in cows too. Yeah, like that side didn't have any sockets, but if I were really desperate to make Insight, I could pop Larza Quest or Socket Quest, but again, I think it's kind of a waste. You can kind of hold out until you find something better. Here's an interesting find. Crystal Sword. I found a Crystal Sword in Nightmare Cows. You might, at this point, think, man, if I go to Larzuk, you know, I could burn the socket quest on that Crystal Sword, but I think it would actually get 6 sockets instead of 4, because it it dropped the Nightmare Cows, so the eye level for it is a lot higher. And yes, I am actually out of Monic here, but you can kind of see it took all of me running through like 4 or 5 packs before I actually officially ran out. And this is just with like having Spirit Sword and a couple of rings to give Monarch, and that's it. Like, if I had a Spirit Monarch too, then yeah, like I would be really, really good in the Mana department. Oh, there you go. And there's a nice pelt too, right? I'm not going to do the rest of this run. I'm just trying to give an idea of what these runs look like, kind of like what you can expect out of cows. Yeah, let's take a look. Spirit of Barbs, Tornado Volcano, nothing too useful, unfortunately, but kind of drives home the idea that, yeah, like, you can get some pretty cool pelts that are magic, rare, just from running like something like Nightmare Cows, just playing through the game normally. So that is for if you want to get some basic items without too much trouble. The last place, and probably most interesting spot that for you
Greetings.
that I'm going to cover in this video is hell pits, right? I mentioned the 4 areas I'm going to farm: Eldritch, Pindle, Nightmare Cows, and Pits here. So Pits is a level 85 area, meaning that the monsters there, basically any monsters in that area can drop just about anything in the game. So yeah, a lot of people like to farm level 85 areas, and it just so happens that the pits are a good spot for the druid, because even though, well, yeah, the monsters there are pretty easy to kill as the Windy Druid. There you go, I found it. So yeah, in order to find pits, you just need to go to Outer Cloister waypoint, and then you work your way down the road, and then it'll fork. One road will go to the pit, obviously, and the other one goes backwards towards Black Marsh from Outer Cloister. Okay, so this is where Carrion Vine might actually be useful. And you'll see there's a lot of monsters here, or there's Bone Warriors and Fallen, and there's also the Spearwomen and the Demon Archers or whatever. The Bone Warriors and the Spearwomen are immune to cold, so you need to deal with them using Tornado, but you can see these Fallen, very easy to kill with Hurricane. Like, even if I walked into a big group of them. Oh, here we go. Dark Archers, too. Just go get a couple of NATOs, and boom, we're done. Superior Balrog Blade, kind of a shame it's not ethereal, because you could have maybe like an oath in that or something. Some combination of Hurricane and NATOs killed that Champion Archer really quickly. But even if I were to do no Demon Head, you know what, I can probably give that to my Merc, can't I? I can even throw this onto my Merc for now too, before I make something into it. So, yeah, look at this. I'm not even going to cast a Tornado. Look, 1, 2, 3 ticks, done. And then you can see my Vine, which is about to die, so I'm going to recast it there. My Vine is kind of restoring, or yeah, you can see it's eating bodies and restoring me some health, which is pretty cool. So I don't have to keep chugging down potions here and there. Oh, there we go. That's yeah, that was stupid of me. I wasn't paying attention. Oh, we got Oak's Age back up. That's kind of a problem. I got sloppy there because I was explaining, but yeah, yeah, I have to recast Cyclone Armor. I gotta make sure that Oak's Age stays out of the fight. Gotta make sure that I keep recasting Hurricane to prolong the duration. You can see here. Yeah, there were just a lot of monsters, and there was like a unique monster, probably with some crazy modifiers. But yeah, that's kind of how it is. How the playstyle is, you can see I can clear pits pretty nicely with this. And my Merc is losing some health here, so another potion. And yeah, I think that's basically the gist of how the build works. I'm gonna probably kill a few more packs, see if I can find pits level 2, but more or less this is kind of what I wanted to demo. Oh, yeah, you can see my Hurricane wore off. I'm going to teleport here so that I can bring my Merc forward. I want to get the amp damage proc off, ideally. You can see that it doesn't proc very often, but when it does, it's actually pretty devastating. It's kind of nice if you're going up against a boss of some kind, like if you're going up against like Diablo or something, or some other monster with a lot of health, then yeah, amp damage helps a lot, but it doesn't proc for every fight with a 5% chance to hit, so just gotta take advantage of it when it does show up. My Hurricane wore off. Just gonna recast and keep moving. Yeah, and I think this is a dead end, so I'll end the run here. And that basically covers what I wanted to show for this build. Yeah, more cold immunes, just get a couple of NATOs in there and they're dead. No big deal. And, yeah, I mean, it might be annoying to have to recast Hurricane, but what can you do about it? Okay, I'm gonna go back to town and I'm just gonna conclude the video here. Okay, that pretty much covers everything for my budget Wind Druid guide. As you get better gear that boosts your damage and resistances, you'll be able to run other areas too, such as Chaos Sanctuary and Wildstone Keep. Uh, you can even do it with the gear that I have now, but I wouldn't suggest it I wouldn't suggest doing it by yourself with this level of gear, because even though you can go through Chaos, the runs are pretty inefficient. Um, and yeah, you just don't have enough damage to deal with Venom Lords quickly, I'd say. And then in Wildstone Keep, you come across all sorts of very dangerous monsters, things like the Frenzied Death Lords or Burning Souls. And if you go to Throne Room, you'll even come across the Undead Soul Killers. So until you get better gear that has good resistances, like here you can see my resistances are still pretty low. Like if I could replace stealth for smoke, that'd be nice. Lore for a proper druid pelt, like Jalal's maybe, um, and definitely this for Spirit Monarch. Then maybe you can actually consider running some of the other areas. Anyway, otherwise I don't really have anything else to say. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video for a budget Wind Druid. This is D2D2, signing out.